Hi there, my name's Mark Fountain and I've been a videographer for nearly 20 years now. And today we're going to be answering the most Google questions about videography. So this first one is a very good question, is how much will it cost? Well, all depends really on how far you want to go. It could cost you 200 quid, it could cost you £20,000. All depending on what budget you've got and really what you want to be recording. But you could always just start off with your phone. Phone's the perfect way to go. Question number 2. So we get asked this a lot. How long will it take to complete a project? So again, all depending on budget and all depending on how quickly you can film and edit. Workflow is a huge thing. So when I say workflow, I mean laying down all your footage for editing. To be honest, it can take a week, it can take a day. It all depends on the project and the client. Number 3, what is the process of producing a video? Well, when you're starting out, you could probably just wing it and just do what we call run and gun, which is when you're just filming, running around, and maybe grabbing the odd interview here and there. And I think as you progress, you'll start to storyboard, plan it, and honestly, planning's more key than anything. Spend way more time planning than actually shooting, because going back to the workflow completion of the project, it really cuts down time on that part of it. Number 4. What camera do I need to buy? Well, this is a very personal preference. So there's a few main companies, Canon being one of them, Sony being another, and Nikon as well. They seem to be the 3 leading brands. Personally, I'm a Sony user, so I'm an advocate for Sony. I would say Sony all day long, but also Canon are quite good as well. Canon's quite industry standard for photography, and I would say Sony is quite industry standard for filming. Number 5, do videos work? So, at the moment, we seem to be in this whole climate of video. So yes, I would say video works way more than anything else when you're trying to capture your audience, but that doesn't mean to say that photography doesn't. So depending on the industry, if it comes to e-commerce stuff, I would say photography is key. If it's coming for product, I would still say photography is key. But I think if you're trying to introduce a company or try and inject some personality into something, whatever the project may be, I would say video all day long. Number 6, what frame rate is best? So I do actually get asked this one quite a lot by a load of other upcoming videographers. So frame rate is all about how quickly the frames move around. So use the analogy of, do you remember the old carousel with the thing moving in it, or flick books or anything like that? You can use that as a guide of frame rate. So, you know, say if you've got 5 pages in the book and you're flicking through it, it'd be very juddery. So if you've got 120 pages in a book, it'd be nice and smooth. So that's because there's more frames per second that's being recorded. So the more frames you get, the smoother the slow motion will be when you come into the edit. But all Hollywood films are shot at around 25 frames per second. I shoot everything 60 frames per second because I like to, in my workflow, not have to mess around with different frame rates. If I want to slow something down, I can. And when I export it in either 24 or 30 frames per second. I hope that hasn't just gone over everybody's head. All right, number 7. How do I make my video go viral? I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I think it's about content. So if you've got something that's relative at the moment or trending, or if there's some sort of content that no one else has done, something like that works. I actually had a friend of mine on Lanzarote who, it was that hot one day, he put a frying pan outside and actually fried an egg in a frying pan that was outside because it was that hot. That went viral. That had about 16 million views, I think. and he's never ever had a video do anything like that. He usually gets like 20 views or whatever. So I think it's content related, thinking outside the box. I think that's what makes things go viral. There's no rhyme or reason for it. Number 8, landscape or vertical. So I think this would depend on what the client's asking for. I think vertical is what everybody's looking at the moment because it's the way we look at stuff on our phone. But I also think there's a huge place for landscape still. So I think YouTube is very much landscape based. Anything sitting on somebody's website, landscape based. But I think generally everybody likes to shoot vertical. So I actually do both. I will shoot everything in landscape, but leave enough room so that if I have to, I can crop it into a vertical frame. Number 9, do I need a gimbal? Well, I don't. I have got 2 gimbals, but I never use them. So if anyone wants to buy them, they're for sale. But I believe the software within the cameras now and the lenses, they stabilize themselves anyway. If you're pretty good at holding stuff and you can hold it pretty steady yourself, then no, there's no need for a gimbal. Tripods are pretty good, monopods are really good, you can sort of create the same effect. So for me personally, I don't use them because I quite like the handheld look anyway, and I've been doing it for so long, I can pretty much get like a smooth dolly motion without having to have a gimbal. So are they? Don't know, personal preference again, I think. The last question, number 10. Canon or Sony? Well, I know why Callie's chucked this one in. I'd say Sony, but she's very much Canon. I think it's very personal preference. It's like buying a Ford or a Peugeot. What one do you prefer? Or a Volkswagen or something else, or an Audi? It's personal preference. I think it's all depending on what you prefer. They both got different colour outputs. They've both got different menu systems. They both look completely different. So I think it's honestly personal preference, but personally, I'd say Sony. So I've been Mark from Fountains Media, and today I have answered the 10 most Google questions about videography. I just want to say thank you for Callie for inviting me along.